Hello everyone, welcome to Blue Dragon Universe, and this is the Blue Dragon Actual YouTube channel. So as you can see on your screen, just writing down the Blue Dragon Universe website name. Please ignore my handwriting; it is quite bad. I understand that, and I'm trying this writing and recording at the same time, so this would take me some time, right? So please do visit BlueDragonUniverse.in. There are a lot of courses. The courses are for freshers, right? You can also, if you even if you're an experienced person, there will be courses which are for especially for experienced people. And please check out the courses section. There will be multiple drop down, and you can go and check those. And we are in the process of integrating lower papers like CM1, CM1 is completed, CS1 will be completed soon, and then other papers, right? And if you have any query, do write an email to us in bluedragonuniverse.in. We take a lot of pride in saying that we'll be responding back to you in 24 hours, right? If not less. So that is our commitment, right? So today this video is related to a question that has been asked by one of my SP2 student, right? And her question is why, uh, which product has lowest, or highest acquisition expense, and which product has lowest acquisition expense, and that is what we are going to understand and discuss today. So the answer for that is term product. Term product has highest acquisition expense, right? And we are going to see the reason why, right? And but it is counterintuitive. You might think that term product is such a plain vanilla product. Why it would have highest acquisition expense? Other products should have highest acquisition expense, right? But that is how it is. And for annuity, the acquisition expense is the lowest, right? So annuity has lowest acquisition expense. And once again, it might be counterintuitive. Annuity is such a heavy product, right? And I'm talking about, immediate annuity, deferred annuity. I'm not talking about variable annuity, right? So I'm talking about the simple form of annuity. Now, acquisition expense, first of all, we need to understand what is acquisition expense. Acquisition expense can consist of commissions, right? That phone call you make, the internet related expense, right? Someone is logging in and you have to pay some as an insurer, you have to pay the internet bill, right? So all these are there. Then you have to travel, the agent might have to travel, right? So all of these are there, but the main expense is underwriting expense, which forms a bulk of acquisition expense. You can say that 80% of that acquisition expense is coming from underwriting. And if you, if you see about that, and if you consider underwriting is of two type: financial underwriting and medical underwriting. In this case, I'm talking about medical underwriting, because medical underwriting would require significant cost, medical test and everything else. So that is where the acquisition expense actually come from. Right now, let us move to the other page. Okay, so this page is cleaner. So let us start with understanding why. So if we can establish this logic that underwriting expense is highest for term product, then we'll know that acquisition expense is higher for term product, right? So let us proceed with the logic, right? So first of all, we have to understand what we understand by underwriting. I have seen many people who confuse underwriting with actuaries. That is not the case. Underwritings are risk assessors, right? They do not price the risk; they assess the risk, and depending on the assessment, they put a price tag to that. It's like VLOOKUP going on, right? And that price is given by the actuaries, right? So underwriters are not actuaries. Many people are confused about that, right? So basically, underwriting team assess that how risky the policy is for the insurer, right? And more premium will be charged if the policy is more risky, right? So if the policy is very risky, more premium. If the policy is less risky, right? Obviously, then there will be lower premium. That's how underwriting is supposed to be done. And underwriting team will not determine the premium on their own. That is a common misconception. The premium is determined by the actuaries. Underwriting team is just assigning those premium as per the risk assessed by them, right? So they are not determining the premium, they are just looking up those premium, right? So term insurer wants the person not to die, right? Not is very important. Not to die. You can see not is written here in capital. Not to die within the policy term, because that will affect the number of payments, right? So not is very important. The insurer do not want the person to die. So if the insurer wants to be profitable, insurer do not want the person to die within the term of the policy, right? If the person dies, then the person is going to or the nominee would be paid the sum assured, right? So that is how term assurance work, and that is why underwriting is so important. Let us move to the other page. Now, term product, profit depends on the number of death or number of survivors, right? Number is important. If the person do not die within the term, then the payment is zero, right? But if the person dies within the term, as we mentioned, the payment is equal to the sum assured, right? So payment depends on the number of deaths, and number of deaths depend on underwriting. Because if you have underwritten well, then fewer people will die within the term, right? Some people automatically die because of accident or some other thing that is outside your control, but otherwise, no people will die because of bad health, right? So underwriting is required to assess this risk, how likely the person is to die within the term, right? And that is where medical underwriting comes in. So it is a matter of profit and loss for the insurer, which depends on the number of death, right? As compared to this any other life insurance product like whole life or endowment, you have to make the payment, right? You have to make the payment. There is no other way. It is when you are making the payment. There, the number of life or number of death is not important. There, the timing of the payment is important. Here, the number of the payment is important, right? So that is what I am writing down here for whole life or endowment. If you consider both of this, right? So then here, when the person is when to pay is important, but in term number of payments is important, right? In whole life and endowment, the profit is determined by when the insurer is paying, right? If the insurer is paying early, then the insurer, is barely making any investment gain or investment surplus. But if the insurer is paying at the later half, then the insurer has made sufficient investment surplus. So whole life endowment, we have investment or investment surplus, and that is why these policies are it's known as saving policy, because the insurer also make main profit from the the saving component, as compared to term policies where the insurer is making policy or advantage or taking advantage of the mortality surplus or mortality, or getting bogged down by the mortality loss, right? So term number of payments which is controlled by underwriting, but here whole life and endowment, it is timing of payment, right? And because it is timing of payment, it is related to investment. Underwriting is never related to investment. Underwriting is for assessing mortality risk, right? So you can understand that underwriting is not that important for whole life and endowment because of that case, right? So that is where term, because underwriting is so important, medical underwriting is such an important thing for term. It costs the bulk of acquisition expense is medical underwriting, and that is why acquisition expense is heavier in term assurance side. Why? It is for annuity. It is not. Why annuity do not need any underwriting. Annuity do not need any underwriting, because in if you do underwriting for annuity, and why, and because annuity do not need any underwriting, then that would mean that acquisition expense would be lower in annuity, right? Because underwriting will determine how unhealthy the person is, right? So how quickly the person is going to die, because that is where the insurer is going to make profit, right? So that is what I have written here, how quickly the person would die. And in this case, it will have some ethical concern, because you are using medical means or whatever genetic testing or whatever you have at your disposal to determine how quickly the person is going to die. No political party in the world is going to agree with that approach, right? So because of that ethical concern, underwriting is not done in annuity products, right? So people will, you are not allowed to, as an insurer, not allowed to determine when the person is going to die, because that has some negative, connotation with that. And that is why acquisition expense is lowest, because medical underwriting is completely skipped in annuity, which is required to an extreme detail in term assurance, which is required to very minute details in, whole life and endowment. In whole life, it is slightly more important than endowment, and for annuity, it is not needed at all, right? So that is the reason why acquisition expense is lowest in annuity and highest in term assurance. So I hope you get the picture.